In other words, they're investing in you. And you don't invest time in yourself to send a proper communication. What makes you think that we will invest in you? In the beginning, we had the video but not the audio, and I wanted to correct that. Whatever we probably have missed in the beginning of the video. And I would like to introduce the panel again, which is probably the audio part is missing. And Dr. Girum Urgessa is our associate professor of civil engineering, and he is the graduate coordinator at the civil engineering program here at the Volgenau School of Engineering. Our department official name is Sidjan Reva Duberi, Department of Civil, Environmental and Infrastructure Engineering. It's a mouthful. And this is Senior Professor Dr. Rao Mulpuri. Well, you could have guessed from our both accents. We are also from originally from India. This is interesting actually. Our odyssey, the three of us. Dr. Urgessa originally comes from Ethiopia, and Dr. Mulpuri and I come from India. Of course, Ms. Jade Perez is a native born American here. And we went through this process, and we are on the other side of it. We know a little bit more than somebody who was born and brought up in the United States and didn't go through the externalities of it. So I'm not saying we know better, but it's like we were through that process. That's what I'm saying. That's Dr. Rao Mulpuri is a senior professor in electrical engineering department here at Volgenau School, and he conducts. I mean, don't send him any. He has like he has a lot of research projects going on currently, and Jade Perez, our director of graduate admissions at Volgenau School, and I thank you, Ben. Oh, forgot Dr. Mark Houck, who was on the phone earlier. He's been at University of Washington, at Purdue University, and here he served as the chairman of the civil engineering department for a long time. And he's also a senior professor here. It's basically among all of us, we've been there, done that quite a bit.
Places are only maybe third, fourth, second, other places only. Still, the United States is number one to provide quality graduate education. And what distinguishes United States from the rest of the world in graduate education? US-based education is more hands-on. It is project-based. It's not just teaching in the class and then you are tested only on what you are taught in the class. But every course that is taught in the United States has projects, and the working on the projects is the best way to acquire hands-on experience. So in that respect, there is no competition for the United States graduate education.
They are looking for specialized skills beyond the traditional undergraduate course content. And professional societies, for example, like the American Society of Civil Engineers, are pushing for professionals to acquire advanced credits beyond their Bachelor's of Science degree. So again, the need from potential employers for specialized skills should motivate students to graduate.
Dr. Houck?
Let me start by saying that the connection that I have is relatively weak, so I may have missed some points that were already made.
Okay.
I think that the question is why we're pursuing a U.S. education?
That's one way to put it. Yes.
Okay. There are multiple reasons, but I'm sure somebody has already said that in general it is still a valuable degree to have at the graduate level, whether it's an MS or a doctorate. And the desirability of an engineering or other specialized degree is even enhanced beyond the norm. So I think that it is still a place where the competition to get in is very high and the rewards are equally high. So just based on the marketplace, it is a worthwhile thing to do. If I got some of the other comments with regard to the need to know what you want to pursue, otherwise it's not worth it, I have to somewhat disagree because I think that there is ample opportunity to have a general idea of where you want to go and what you want to study. But until you actually get to an institution and you meet the people who are there and you find out what's really at the forefront of interest in different parts of the world, it's difficult to say, I want to study exactly this. And so some flexibility is probably desirable, because it's not true that every university is going to have every single thing that you could possibly want to study. You could try and find the match between your interests and university, but it may be difficult.
On that note, actually, then let's say, when does this search process begin? Like the third year, first year, second year, third year, senior year? Is that so? This may be a good thing, a good time to talk about also. What is the preparation that is needed? Again.
Okay. Usually, because even though you are pursuing engineering degree, until you are in the third year of the degree, you don't know much about the discipline that you are pursuing, because the first 2 years you are exposed to math, science, humanities only. Only in the third year in engineering, then you just started to know what different subject areas are available in your chosen specialization. So master's degree is even much more specialized area. So which area you want to pursue, you need to have some experience in the field, chosen field, before you make that special decision on the specialized topic. So in my opinion, third year of engineering is the best time to start looking, thinking about what specialization you want to pursue in the master's level and what colleges that you want to go. So the sooner it happens in the third year, the better off there, because especially for foreign students, they have to work on the TOEFL and the GREs and all these exams. So if the preparation starts in the junior, they have enough time to prepare for the GRE, TOEFL exams, take them in case if they get poor score, try again second time or third time. So they have enough time to complete those initial things, and then they can apply in the beginning of their senior year for the graduate.
Okay, you said the GRE and TOEFL.
Yeah.
The GRE and TOEFL is where actually there is a lot more. A lot has changed probably when you took courses. When I took courses, even you took, you're much younger. Just probably. But in general, the GRE, is that all required for all those programs? And let me start with our program here. Is every department in the group requires GRE and TOEFL?
The TOEFL is required for every student if they went to a university outside of the US, the UK. So, and for most universities, that's non-negotiable. I mean, most universities really require that. But specifically for our school, and this is similar to a lot of other universities, the GRE is required for most programs, and then some have a caveat, which is if it's an international degree or if your degree is in a different discipline, it's required. But my recommendation for most students is to take the GRE, and like Dr. Mulpuri said, take it in your third year, your junior year, to give yourself time to prepare, because I think a lot of students are surprised with the difference. Scores vary pretty wildly by university.
Well, that GRE preparation, there is also there may very well be a bias towards some education in different countries. GRE is what? What is the purpose of GREs, by the way?
Because what happens is when people apply from across the globe for graduate admission, then there should be some score that everybody takes throughout the world to gauge this student versus other students.
Standardized.
Some standardized. So it plays the role of evaluating the student with respect to the other applicants you are dealing with, because we don't know much about every college that we are dealing with. So this is basically a benchline mark to evaluate the student versus other students that we are dealing with. That is the role of GRE.
Basically, are there any wiggle room in? Let me ask you, Dr. Ungessa, you deal with graduate admissions in engineering, civil engineering programs. I mean, there are minimum scores that are required, but is there any wiggle room like, well, okay, the math is very high, the English is not so high?
Yes, so what most schools in the US do is they actually take the score of the quantitative and the verbal, and they ask for a total score. And then most engineering programs give more weight on the quantitative score than the verbal score. There is definitely a wiggle room. In some programs, there is no minimum cutoff value. For example, in our program, we don't advertise a minimum GRE score, but we'd like to see a percentage where the students are placed in the quantitative exam, what is their percentage versus the actual raw score.
On the same topic, on the GRE and TOEFL, the graduate admissions office here in George Mason probably pretty similar elsewhere in other universities. What is the relationship between the department graduate program and the graduate admissions within a school? Jade, could you lean on that?
Well, it does really vary, actually. As far as the graduate admissions goes here at Mason, we're decentralized, so there are several graduate units across the university. What our job to do is to make sure students meet the minimum requirements. So, do they have the minimum TOEFL requirements? Do they have the minimum GPA as far as their undergraduate degree? And we make sure that they meet all of those requirements, including turning in supplementary materials like goal statements, letters of recommendation. And then at our school, we funnel those to the faculty because the faculty make those decisions. Now, some universities that's not the case. Some universities, not the faculty to make it. The faculty set the standards, and then the office just decides yes or no based on very specific standards. So it does vary. I can tell you that's how it works at Mason, but it doesn't work that way across the university system in the US.
So it's basically our system here at George Mason is that it is a split decision. The graduate office takes the applications and sees if this person has met the minimum requirements set by the department, and then only you forward that application to the department, and then the final decision happens at the department level, correct? But in other places, it could very well be the departments give the rules to graduate office, and then they make the decision.
Right, and a good example of that, to go back to what we were just talking about, was the GRE. There are universities where they have a very specific GRE that they're looking for, and if you don't meet that GRE, their applications would never even be reviewed. They would automatically be denied, and that's the truth.
So in terms of while they're having this preparation for TOEFL and GRE, there is always this room for improvement. So how is that, multiple takes of GRE affect in general, like in our school where a program requires a GRE. So for instance, I took GRE 4 times. So in some trials I have math higher, and sometimes my English is improved. So are they going to take a combination of the best of the both, or how does that work?
That's a really common question. We get asked that a lot. Most universities, and it makes it specific, we look at the score for one sitting. So we don't combine scores. So if you do really well on quantitative one time and really well on verbal the other time, we're not going to combine it. We're going to look at one sitting. Now, individual faculty members may take that into account when they're reviewing their application as a whole with all of the other pieces. But in terms of getting financial aid, like getting scholarships and things, they're looking for the scores on one sitting in total.
Okay. So while we are still in the application process, so when somebody decides to apply for it, and they took TOEFL and GRE, and back in the days, like 25 years ago, when I was applying, we used to write to the programs, and they even had the postcards, postage paid postcards. We mailed them and whatever. And every day, you look for the mailman. He brings in all these colorful brochures. They look so fancy. You kind of imagine yourself being in the fall and in the yard. It's really sort of a dreaming process. People dream about. I think I'm not being a very. I'm not throwing a hyperbole at it. It's like it is true. Now everything is available on the web. All the pictures and even like pictures have exploded in maybe in millions of times. That's available pictures.
No, it is a welcome change actually. Can you imagine? Because 25 years ago, number of people coming for graduate education was a small number. So mail system worked. If for the same demand that we have today, if we have to handle the traffic by mail only, then the graduate admission service will be hard pressed.
Well,
More hard pressed we are.
Yeah.
I know who will be happy about it. The postal department and
Yeah.
stuff. They've been. Those are the ones that are hurting across all countries because of internet. Anyway, so the process is that again it was a physical application. Now changed to we have an online application process. So pretty much all major universities do the online application. So that the students do take that online application process. But and then there are these other requirements like transcripts, TOEFL scores, and then recommendation letters. They come from different sources. How do they get assembled in one place, Jade?
Most universities now, the biggest question we probably get asked is about the letters of recommendation. Most universities now include applications, those are all done online. So when you're filling out your online application, you'll put down the email address. So for example, if I was the applicant, Dr. Urgessa was my faculty, which would be wonderful. I would put down his email address and he would get an automated email that would, when he filled out his recommendation, would be attached to my application automatically. Now, I know for a number of international students this is an issue. It's much preferable. It does increase this process by which your application gets sent to the faculty, doing the online recommendation. But typically what happens is with most items, save for transcripts, you can upload them online, and that's really the way to go. Don't send a package of materials because everything can be uploaded online, and all we're waiting for is your transcript. It'll definitely increase the time it takes for you to get a decision when you're sending it by paper. So everything basically can be uploaded. If you choose to do it by paper, just know you're slowing yourself.
1 second. The official transcripts, aren't we asking that they come straight from the institution?
The official transcripts, we are asking that they come directly from the institution. On a number of American universities, those can be sent online as well. But international universities, it's much, much harder. Most universities don't have those systems yet. So they still have to send those by postal mail. But again, if all we're waiting on is your transcripts, it's really going to decrease the amount of time it takes you to get a decision.
Okay, there is a valid concern, at least at the time when I was at IIT, there was a well-publicized case in which, I'm talking about transcript doctrine. There were 2 students, exceptionally bright students in one program, and one of them got into MIT and the other didn't. the guy who didn't get into MIT was the guy who had better portfolio than the guy who got it. Then he got suspicious and he wrote to MIT graduate admissions office and said, okay, these are my credentials. I know the other guy's credentials are weaker than mine. How come he got, I didn't get? And then they actually called IIT and then found out this guy has doctored his transcript. And well, of course, they rescinded the offer, but I don't know what happened. But this has been, I mean, this is not just one incident. There were situations like that that happened even at IIT level. So I know for sure that there are other cases that have happened. And also, U.S. consulates across the world may have instituted, as a matter of visa requirement, the university should provide some access, online access or something like that. So with all these checks and balances, still, are you not afraid of some doctor transcripts come this way if you upload it, and how do you take care of that?
Well, that's why, the U.S. has a much more secure system, so there are specific companies only that the university will work with. So, for example, most universities use one of 3 companies, and they have a level of security that the university, we feel comfortable that those are official documents, because they come directly from that university system directly to ours. There's no middleman, there's no way that they can tamper with. And in fact, if there's ever a case where we feel like maybe this isn't exactly correct, we will contact the university directly to double check a few documents. And that's why with international transcripts, we don't necessarily have that ability online. That's why we require them to come directly from the university in a sealed envelope from the university abroad directly to our office. And we have international credential evaluators who are every single transcript to make sure, is this official? Is this what the student said they received?
One comment I would like to add on the application materials is goal statement is very important for us. And sometimes we see a mistake where students are writing why they want to join George Mason, but then the letter was addressed to the Purdue, for example.
Okay, hold that thought. I will come back to that. She touched upon, we are still in the application process, so I'm going in a sequence in there. So that's a very important topic where I have in my notes that itself has a separate thing, goal statement or statement of purpose. So you said the transcript credential evaluations. This is, I know for sure this is a very important topic for, at least from students coming from abroad, because every university has its own way of doing it. For instance, we have a 4-point grading system, and there are some universities in the US itself, there are 5-point GPA. I mean, I don't know if they still exist, but they used to be. In India, there is a percentage marks, and then there is this thing called final exam and a sessional exam. And IITs have the 10-point scale, GPA, with so many variations. Somebody is looking at this, every institution from every different country, and then they are trying to translate that into a 4-point GPA scale. How effective is that? How effective you think that is? Is it working?
I think it's working, and I think it's really effective. Most of the time, there's a pretty direct correlation between what their GPA would have been inside the US and what it would have been in the country where they originally got their degree. It's usually very effective. It's usually a pretty clear indication.
Well, as a professor, do you take the same approach?
I think, look, what is the choice? Somebody has to do it. In my opinion, that's what is happening. Like, for example, some of these conversions from one system to the other are not really accurate. For example, 60% in India is considered as 3-point something, okay, more than 3 point, okay? That may be true with some universities, but that may not be true with other universities. But no evaluator has knowledge of every university in the world anyway. So there is some inaccuracies in the not intentional inaccuracies, but systematic inaccuracies, practical inaccuracies. There's nothing you can do about it. But one thing, graduate education is different from undergraduate education. In the sense, somebody wants to pursue graduate degree because they have a genuine interest in specific specialization. So, in the process, even if the admission process we make some mistake that we admitted somebody who probably doesn't deserve to go to graduate school, then that you can put a full stop to that after one semester. They don't meet the minimum 3.0 requirements. Okay, that happens all the time. You know, we admit people. Some people fail to maintain the 3.0 GPA. Then they are given the letters that you are going one warning letter at the end of the first semester. Then if that continues second semester, then we tell them to leave the university. So, in a global level, there isn't a system that is going to make a just decision in every case. So we have to live with the system. And most of these evaluators are not necessarily capable of evaluating every transcript that comes from a country in Asia or South America or Africa or Europe. So there are some underestimates of degree value, and there are some overestimates of the degree value. So we have to live with it.
What about your impressions about this?
So my impression about this is, luckily here in the US, we have faculty from different countries who are born in different continents. And in addition to the standard evaluation centrally done by the university, we also have a pretty good idea of many transcripts because we have faculty from different countries. So we get their opinions when there is, when we are really unsure about the conversion rate. For example, if the transcript is coming from India, going back to Dr. Venigalla was originally from India. So I think, as Rao said, we need to have some central conversion system, and beyond that, we'll use our local resources to make a sensible decision about it.
The central conversion system and the people who do the conversion. So let me ask you, Jade, is there any standard metric, or not metric, metric may not be the word. Is there a qualifying process for these people or the institutions or agencies who do the transcript evaluation?
There is. I mean, in fairness, for credential evaluators, I know sometimes students feel like it may not be fair. And obviously, no, not every evaluator will know everything about every single university. But in fairness, most of them are experts in a specific area of the world. So, for example, you would have somebody who they do all of the evaluations for Indian universities. You will have people who do evaluations for all of the universities in China because they specialize and they're able to learn the most about that educational system. So most of them actually have gone to universities for a specialized degree to become a credential evaluator. And especially when you're working with a larger company, so maybe one really popular is World Evaluation Services, they have offices all across the world, so they really can do quite a bit of comparison and analysis to make sure they're at least giving a fair conversion. I think most of the time these are at least a fair conversion. I know students sometimes disagree, but much like the GRE, we have to find some way of leveling the playing field, and so we're trying to create a level GPA for every single student.
So is there a list of what do you call approved or certified evaluators for each school separately?
There is. Most universities will have a list of companies that they're accepting, so and we use that as well.
Okay.
It's all listed on our website.
Now, in the application bundle, the most important thing is the application itself, and then the transcripts, and then the DREs and all the standardized test scores, recommendation letters. We can, since you started that about the statement of purpose, let's start with statement of purpose and then get to the recommendation letters. Let me ask Dr. Houck Dr. Houck, about the statement of purpose. do you have any observations on that? You've been academician for quite a few, quite a few years. Maybe you have some things seen, do's and don'ts in that statement of purpose. Hello? I think, are you there?
Did you hear me?
Oh, yeah. I think, yeah, you were not on speaker, so now you're back on speaker. Go ahead. We can hear you now.
Okay.
Yeah.
The things that I look for in the statement of purpose is, first of all, did they do things, did the applicant refer to the actual institution to which they are applying? And every once in a while they don't, and then it's clear that they didn't take the time to do that. So that's just a test of, are they serious about this particular application, or are they mass producing them? Another is, did they apply to the correct program? Because in some cases, it may be a typo. They put down they were interested in electrical engineering, but they found the application to civil engineering, and that could be any number of bureaucratic issues. It just got misplaced. But if the letter of support or the letter of intention it says, I want to study electrical engineering, and that's very useful because if it arrives in chemical engineering, then it can be redirected to the proper place. So once again, it's a way to make sure that you align the interests of the student with, or applicant with, the correct program. And lastly, not lastly, but next, I look to see whether the statement is actually coherent in English, because the expectation is that you will be writing in English and participating in English, and if English is a problem, then that's going to be a problem throughout your career. And so that's something else. So that's, none of those things look at the actual content of the statement. So then the content of the statement is important because it allows to determine whether or not the specific interest of the student matches a program. So I'll use civil engineering as the example. If you wrote to a program and you said you wanted to pursue a doctorate in construction management, well, that is generally part of a civil engineering program, but it is also possible that civil engineering program does not spend any time in construction management, or only does it a little bit, and clearly would not support somebody who was interested in a doctorate in that field. That may actually be something that would be difficult to discern from a website. So you can now respond with, this is the inappropriate place, but maybe some other institutions would be better for this particular individual. So you can start to see whether the match is actually a good one. So that's what I look for.
I think what happens is, what we see in electrical engineering, people say that I am interested in embedded systems, but in our department, we probably have one course on embedded systems, but not necessarily faculty who specialize in that. But if they write a statement of purpose, mainly focused on I'm interested in embedded system, then we know we have made the decision that that student is not a good match for our program. So the best thing for any student is to do some research. Is it just one course in that university? Because master's degree needs 10 courses. You cannot write a statement of purpose that is only addressing to one course, because what about the remaining 9 courses? So the best thing for them is to go to the website, do some research about the specializations available in that particular department and the research interests of the faculty, and then see if you have enough courses and enough faculty specializing in your interest that exist in that place, first of all. Otherwise, you are wasting your energies applying to that particular place.
Dr. Urgessa, you read quite a few of these statements of purpose as graduate coordinators. So what's your take on it?
Yeah, so I think the points which were said earlier are well valid, but not, what I look for in addition to what's already said is what are you bringing to the program? I think it's better to write that in the statement of purpose. So you know, whether it's your enthusiasm or whether it's your background, which meets with the research interest of the faculty, it's very important to highlight, okay, I'm bringing these qualities to the program. Another thing is, as Rao mentioned, nowadays almost all universities have websites, and the students really have easy access to see the sort of focus or concentrations of the faculty. So, because we have some universities may have limited number of faculty, we can't cover everything in one engineering discipline, and the students have to do their assignment before sending out mass applications. Now, I assume that the content of the goal statement or the statement of purpose, probably the majority of it will be the same. But I think if you are applying to multiple universities, I think it should be the same data. You have to, you need to have at least
some changes
section
for every
section that deals with, okay, if I'm applying to George Mason, I have to match application to interest or other
Jade, administratively, do you look for anything in particular about the statement of purpose, whether it is done or not?
So some universities, and that's ours included, do have word count. We do have a minimum required word count for our statement of purpose. And occasionally I'll see students who write far less than they should. So like Dr. Urgessa mentioned, you know, it is really important. This is your one time on the application. Everything else is fill in the blanks, and this is your one time to tell your story and why you're valuable. So students really don't take that into consideration. And so they write very basic, dull statements of purpose, and they don't even meet the minimum word count, or vice versa. They go it's not above and beyond because they're not actually doing a good job. They're just including too much information. So I have students occasionally who will include their entire resume, even though we're asking them for a separate resume. So those are the two biggest mistakes: too much, too little, as far as we're concerned. And some universities, we're a little less strict about it, but some universities, if a student fails to meet the minimum word count or goes over, their application isn't considered.
Oh,
so sometimes they'll say you didn't do what we asked you to do, so their application gets held up until they follow the directions.
Okay, I was holding it for the last until there are other things which I thought.
There is one thing I want.
Yeah.
Because in India and maybe too with some other countries also, there are a lot of people making a lot of money by providing what they call as a consultant in the graduate admission process. The reason why statement of purposes are not exciting because some consultant probably will give a standardized statement of purpose, and then probably even the consultant may be working on it rather than the student. So that is the worst any student can do is relying entirely on the consultant for the statement of purpose and other important matters like which university to pick and what statement of purpose should include. It should be the student's decision rather than a consultant doctoring some unexciting statement of purpose. So students should do the research and work on it themselves rather than relying mostly on the consultant in the process.
That's you hit on another phenomenon that's probably unique, or maybe not that unique to India. But I want to walk through a personal experience of mine. My classmate's son, who was interested in applying to U.S. universities, and he asked me for guidance. This may very well be one of the reasons why I'm doing this particular show is because of I don't think he will mind. Siddhant, he was my friend's son who happens to be in this university. He asked me my guidance, and I told him some of the many things you mentioned, this one including the statement of purpose, and he sent me, and I said, how did you do this? He mentioned some consultant helped him. And I said, this doesn't tell anything about you, what you're going to do, what you want to do, and this looks like so unexciting and so many English mistakes. You got to work on this, buddy. So you're going to do it. I will ask you questions, you write in your language. I will ask you questions, what is that you're good at, how you will do it. So there was a very good email exchange between us, and I made him. He was likely looking for some initially, like any young kid will do, immediate gratification about it. So he thought maybe I will write something for him and then give it. I said, no, you write it, but I'll guide you. So we went on like for about a month. We went through working with this one. Yes, dear students, it takes that much time and effort. You got to put in it. If you don't invest in yourself, who else would? And the second thing is, when you take the shortcut, we will know. When you look at the statement of purpose, we will know. And here is an interesting thing that happened. In the process, and I knew for this he worked hard at it, and he really felt proud at the end of it. He calls me uncle, and he said, thank you, uncle, and so like really, it makes me feel good that I did it, rather than, just taking the easy approach to it. And a funny thing happened. One of the, I don't know which university it was sent to, including here, it was sent to other universities. And they flagged him for plagiarism. This is another important thing I want to mention. They flagged him for plagiarism, and apparently they did some match with something or whatever it is. And he called, and he was crying, and he said, well, this is one thing, it's my effort, I know you've helped me, but that just, you don't let them accuse you of something you didn't do. Just write them back and say, please tell them it is their prerogative whether they give you admission or not. But tell them you worked hard. I did take a professor's help in working with this, which is nothing wrong in it. Just tell them that. And he said, like, I'm extremely offended that you call me plagiarism or something like that. So he stood up for me. This is a lesson for him, and also while bringing that, while making while helping him go through that process. And he keeps saying, oh, every one of my friends is there, and I said, stop it. Don't compare yourself to others. They may very well be lucky, or they may very well be more qualified than you. Just don't compare yourself to others. So this is a good example, and in one of my later series, this is a series of seminars, not necessarily the same panel every time. I will bring him, and probably he will share those experiences as well.
You did not mention one thing. How did it happen? That because he shared what he wrote with the consultant, probably. The consultant felt it is so well written, he gave that to another student as a starting point. So this is one well written statement of purpose. Use this as a guide. So that student basically submitted almost same thing. So that's why you don't share your statement of purpose with any consultant or with any other student, including your own friends.
Yeah. And on this topic, maybe this will be an elaborate topic later on. When we are talking about when people come to US universities and do work here, or do graduate work here, one of the most important things here, especially US institutions take very seriously, is cheating and plagiarism. They're one and the same, but they cover under the cheating umbrella. But plagiarism is you take somebody else's work and then project it as yours. And that applies to even the application process, including the statement of purpose. So this is a lesson that potential students out there should know. Do not copy stuff from others. It's okay to take help in preparing yours, but it's got to be your work. That's the thing I wanted to
There,
know.
there is another thing in the student's mind that if they copy from somebody, they can be accused of plagiarism. But they didn't copy, but somebody else copied from them. Why did it happen that way? Because you probably gave your statement of purpose to somebody. That is considered as indirectly aiding plagiarism. So either you copy from somebody or you aided somebody to copy from you, you are equally punished in the US system, educational system.
Dr. Houck, you have anything to add on this one? Dr. Houck? Now, statement of purpose, and then the recommendation letters. So that's the next one. How does the process now? It's online. We have two separate sections in the recommendation. Intellectual ability, after 25%, 5% like that. We have a matrix to check boxes on that one. And then there are comment section at the bottom. And sometimes you see people write pages and pages, and sometimes you just say, oh, he's good, I recommend, he's something like that. There is another thing that probably some of the students who seek admissions to US universities may not be aware of this. The waiver at the top, which is like waiving the rights to show that. Can you explain that, what the process first, and then we'll get into the recommendation letters, how they are evaluated?
Right. So basically on the evaluation, you can say, I waive my right to review this letter of recommendation. So, for example, if I was the applicant, Dr. Guess, again, this is my faculty member. When I waive my right, that says to the person who's been reviewing the letter of recommendation, she had enough faith that he was going to write something positive. They had a good relationship, that she didn't need to see the letter of recommendation. That's basically how most people do that. If you don't check that box, yes, of course, it gives you the access to review what they've written, but then also, do people view it as seriously because you had the opportunity to carefully examine what you said about it.
Okay. How about the checkboxes thing? How does that work out? Like, you don't evaluate. That's the only administrative section you look at. But, usually the new rules in the United States is that I think a student has the right to look at his file anytime they want. So in which case the recommendations letters become the part of the student's file. And therefore, if I am recommending a student in good faith that, there are a lot of people who are aspirants, and there may be some students who are very good students, not necessarily research material. I mean, they may be okay for a master's program, may not be okay for a PhD program. When they come and ask me for a recommendation, I'm going to say he's a good student, but in my judgment, he's not good for PhD program. How am I going to say if he's going to see that? So there is a dilemma for him. So if the student waives his right to look at that file, I feel a little bit more honest and open about it. Is that, have you seen too many people not withholding their right?
It's, a lot of, almost I would say 95, 96% of the students their rights.
Mm-hmm.
So the recommenders can feel hopefully I'm honest and they fill the boxes. The one common issue I see with letter of recommendations is students we have a minimum requirement, let's say 3. And students will find 3 professors or maybe 2 professors and 1 person who was their mentor, their senior at the time. But the students have to understand that people may be busy. So they have to reach out to more faculty. And there you can correct me. I can ask, for example, for 5 seconds. So I don't have to miss the deadline just because I'm not receiving one, because we are not receiving one. So reach out for at least minimum plus 1 recommender to speed up your application.
So, Jade, the file is not complete until everything that is required is in your office.
That's right.
and then it will not go forward for further evaluation until the whole file is.
Until the whole file is.
Then can people give more faculty emails than minimum required recommendation letter? Let us say they give 5 names, you request all 5 of them to send a
They can do that, and then the other item is if, especially with most online applications, you can view what's happening with your application online. So if you see that someone's just not submitting their letter of recommendation, some systems don't let you submit more than 3. So you can always go in and change who the third person be, or the, and change the email address and still get your application.
So now the recommendation letters are here. What do you look for in a recommendation letter? Between the lines, I mean, typically.
Even before you go there, who should you contact with your recommendation? That is, let us talk about that.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Sure.
So I think many times students give the names of faculty who probably don't know them that well. They may think that the faculty member knows them.
It happens for me.
It happens all the time. The best thing is to talk to the faculty few times, not just one time, before you give their name as one of the recommenders. Make sure that you interact. So let us say in the junior year you made a decision that you want to pursue graduate education, let us say. Then keep meeting these faculty once every few months to let them know what you are doing and what kind of progress you are making academically, what your plans are, so that the faculty members get to know you better than knowing you as one student in a class of 60 students. So what kind of information the faculty member has about you, other than that he knows you, you knows your place. So they should choose faculty properly before they give their names there. So that the faculty member should be somebody who knows you well to write a recommendation letter. Otherwise, the recommendation letter is going to be so neutral. Like in the typical recommendation letter from India, you can figure out that reading the recommendation that faculty member doesn't know the student very well. Sometimes some of them say that he or she is from a very good family and that kind of. Look, we are not evaluating an applicant based upon which family they belong to. Okay, so
This is not matrimony, yes.
Yeah, so we want to know the intellectual ability and the perseverance of a student under difficult circumstances, because pursuing a graduate education in an alien country requires a lot of perseverance.
And not to mention the financial hardship.
So we want to hear the student's qualities that will make the student a suitable candidate to the graduate.
Well, another thing, I don't know if any of the professors are going to watch this. One other thing is, when you are evaluating a student, it doesn't necessarily be purely on the academic basis. It may very well be the leadership qualities. That's really the one that we are looking for. Somebody who is a good communicator and a good leader, and average academic performance will put him over top. I mean, these qualities are even more important than sometimes than the academic, because you do undergraduate program when you are much younger, and as you grow older, these qualities will automatically improve your academic performance. But if you don't have these leadership and communication skills, it takes a hard time to acquire. So personally, in a recommendation letter, if I see somebody is mentioning these qualities, I give a lot more weightage than not necessarily an intellectual ability. Dr. Houck, do you have an opinion on that? I don't know if he's muted, but he's online. Dr. Houck, are you there? No, maybe. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so following up on Rao's discussion earlier, for example, some of the standard questions in the letter of recommendation ask the recommenders to give their opinion about the motivation of the student. So if a student is not cultivating a faculty member, going and talking to the faculty member earlier in their studies, we have some recommenders which say, I don't have enough information. give an opinion about this specific issue. So it's always important to build your relationship with the faculty member early on, maybe in your junior year, and then showing your motivation. But there are other things besides GPA and intellectual ability that could weigh on the decision. So it's
important. I think you mentioned that leadership initiative, entrepreneurial skills, they are very important in a student. The two things that in general we look for is a professor mentioning about those things and also statement of purpose. For example, in our school, to give outstanding graduate student award, we not only look for just GPAs and publications. If the student is involved in some campus-related leadership activities, that we look favorably. Let us say there is a tie between 2-3 students to give the outstanding graduate student award at the school level. Then we look for among these people who is involved in some kind of leadership role in the professional societies or in the campus level, organization leadership. So it's a very important aspect that we look into when we make the decisions.
Dr. Houck, I think you are back. Are you there? No. I think he's online. Something wrong about it. We are almost coming to a close. Our intention was to take phone calls. First, I got to apologize in an attempt to bring Dr. Houck also into the Google Hangout. Basically, I hung myself. We did the setup testing and all last night till 12 o'clock, and it didn't work out very well. So we brought Dr. Houck on phone. Even that seems to have problems. Dr. Houck is not here with us at the university with George Mason. What we can do is we are going to have a series of these seminars, and we will most certainly take students' calls. So for today, with the panel, I have about 8 or 9 minutes left. I have a few more questions. I will cover them. And most definitely, we haven't covered everything that is there to be covered. And I'm pretty sure you will join me at in future seminars on this. I plan to do at least 2 more. The one thing that always comes in probably saying the best for the last or the worst for the last, and the most important thing is, where am I? I'm talking about the financial aid. The financial aid is one thing, a checkbox, as far as you're concerned, but it's not a decision that's done at the graduate program level, but it's done at the individual department level. Correct? So, when and where those decisions will be taken, let's say, start with you, the graduate program coordinator.
So that decision usually is, for instance, I'm speaking from the civil engineering. I'm a civil engineering faculty, and when we get applications in specific area in civil engineering, the faculty will make the admission decision, and then they will hold or they will rank these candidates based on GPA. They will score them, and they will rank the candidates. For example, in environmental and water resources, if we get 5 applications and 4, let's say, are accepted, they will be ranked for financial aid decisions. So that's usually done at the faculty level in a given specific concentration area.
Okay. So it's the GTA?
Yeah, so the GTA is also, I think that individual areas will have a recommendation on the student's capability in the system.
But typically, at least in our program, international students don't necessarily get the very first time a TA position because we want to evaluate their speaking ability and how they. Is that correct?
I think we are trying to change that as well.
So what happens is it depends upon the demand and supply. Basically, that's what it is. and it varies across department to department in one university and university to university. There are no rules regarding it. I mean, if you look at the GTA, for example, in our school, some departments give first preference to the PhD students. Okay, that is the priority. And if there are any left, then next preference is to the master students who are in the second semester or third semester of the program. And but the fresh applicants is the third priority. But still there is a chance that provided you are an excellent student, for example, if the chairman or whoever makes the decision on these assistantships is convinced that you are that outstanding student who deserves to be supported by GTA, then they get it. Okay. On the other hand, there is a thinking among the students that if the GPA is good and if the TOEFL score is good, then they will get it. Kind of. No, because these decisions are not necessarily entirely based upon your scores, and it is basically, okay, let us say I have 2 positions open. I came to know I am making the decisions on the teaching aspect. My chairman told me that there are 2 positions available. Then to make the decision, I'm not going to go through all the folders, look through them. I may do that. But somebody knocked on my door on the same day or next day, and I talked to the student, and the student, I'm convinced that the student will do a good job. Then it is there is a possibility that, I mean, it's a human factor involved here. So I may give it to him, okay, or to her, whatever it is. So many times the GTA decisions are not necessarily only merit your ability to convince the person who makes the decision that you are a person who is capable of handling the GTA. For somebody, an international student who is in the foreign land, it's not easy because you don't have that direct interaction. But however, if you know who makes that decision, GTA decision, in the university that you are applying, you can develop a channel, okay? But not overwhelm them by sending the email every 2 days. Then you will turn off the person who makes the decision.
So you heard that. Do not be overbearing and then try to push. It's going to work against you. If you are trying to reach out to a professor, do it sparingly, not like try to keep on. On that note, I also wanted to ask this email phenomenon. And I do remember when I was applying, and I looked at a paper by a professor in Canada. And I actually was I was trying to look for this particular research, and then he was able to do this speed flow relationship in some Canadian highways. And I was very fascinated by it, and I wrote to him and I said, it's not that easy in back those days to find out what else is out there. So I wrote to him, is there anything else in this area you could provide me with? And this was when I was working as a grad student. And then a couple of years later, I corresponded with him again about I think maybe application or something else, I don't remember. And then I eventually met him at TRB several years later, and it's like he remembers me everything in my correspondence, and he said like there's a relationship that was established over a period of time. So that seemed to work. Now everybody has an email. You don't even have to spend a few rupees in India. Maybe they need to put a postal stamp to send it. Now this is something I personally feel. Honestly, you may feel bad about this. If somebody sends me an email, I'm not obligated to reply. That's how I feel it. And
so with anybody, we are not obligated. Certainly. We try to reply as much as
we are all busy people, and don't expect every professor to kindly, cordially reply to every email you send. It is not realistic, and a lot of students seem to have that expectation, and that is something I wanted to. I really wanted to
Another thing before I forget on this, the emails that we receive from India, they are mostly like in the same format as the text message they send on the
English.
Okay, so they use in place of the letter word YOU, they've just put the English letter U. It is more like a text message basically. They have to understand that there is something called an etiquette. Okay, when you are corresponding with a professor or a university official, then it has to be look like official letter basically. Yeah. Email, they have to differentiate between day-to-day email communication or text communication versus an official communication with a professor or a university official. Okay, it has to look more formal and better English than regular email that you send to your friend or an acquaintance. That is one of the big difference that I am seeing in the present generation versus the past generation.
So no chat language in your email correspondence with the professor, and also you correspond with without the expectation that you get a reply, and you may be able to catch somebody's attention by writing a good email. And in this day and age, with so much information exchange, how many people have that much time? But let me also say one more point on that email thing. So think about this. You are corresponding with a professor and trying to tell that you're the right person to work with him or take the project he's working on and be paid from the project. Or eventually you're going to say, I am his student. In other words, they're investing in you. And you don't invest time in yourself to send a proper communication. What makes you think that we will invest in you? That is the question I'm going to stop this, and I'd like to have what do you call rain check between this Dr. Urgessa and Jade Perez. I think that's because we were not able to take calls today. So if you don't mind, maybe some other time. It's not going to be 1.5 hours. Maybe I will do this as I set up from my home. So that is, I have more control on that one. This is like, even though I work here, we are in a conference room that is not possible. One other thing, in the beginning, we had the video but not the audio, and I wanted to correct that. Whatever we probably have missed in the beginning of the video. And I would like to introduce the panel again, which is probably the audio part is missing. And Dr. Girum Urgessa is our associate professor of civil engineering, and he is the graduate coordinator at the civil engineering program here at the Volgenau School of Engineering. Our department official name is Sidhan Reva Duberi, Department of Civil, Environmental and Infrastructure Engineering. It's a mouthful. And this is Senior Professor Dr. Rao Mulpuri. Well, you could have guessed from our both accents. We are also from originally from India. This is interesting actually. Our odyssey, the three of us. Dr. Urgessa originally comes from Ethiopia, and Dr. Mulpuri and I come from India. Of course, Ms. Jade Perez is a native born American here. And we went through this process, and we are on the other side of it. We know a little bit more than somebody who was born and brought up in the United States and didn't go through the externalities of it. So I'm not saying we know better, but it's like we were through that process. That's what I'm saying. Dr. Rao Mulpuri is a senior professor in electrical engineering department here at Volgenau School, and he conducts. I mean, don't send him in. He has a lot of research projects going on currently, and Jade Perez, our director of graduate admissions at Volgenau School, and I thank you, Ben. Oh, forgot Dr. Mark Houck, who was on the phone earlier. He's been at University of Washington, at Purdue University, and here he served as the chairman of the civil engineering department for a long time. And he's also a senior professor here. It's basically among all of us, we've been there, done that quite a bit. I again thank the panel one more time. And definitely the next time we do this, we're going to take your phone calls. And sorry if we disappointed you for not taking phone calls, because the setup was last minute. We got to drop quite a few things here. So again, I apologize. Are there any things you want to add?
No, thank you for inviting me to participate in the panel.
So this will be posted as a YouTube video. It's actually going live right now. Don't know how many are actually viewing it. So
Yeah, I mean, one thing is probably if somebody wants to get a GRA position, many times they just check it in the application. They think that they will get a GRA. But they have to understand that GRA decisions are made by individual professors who have the funding. In many universities, that's how it happens. But in some universities, some departments basically, then department, there is a central decision. If I have funding, I approach that person, then that person is going to send any applicant whose interests are more towards my interests, okay? But it's a good idea for them to do research and then approach the faculty directly if they want, if they are interested in GRA, graduate research assistant.
well, thank you, gentlemen and ladies. And that was good.
Good luck to everybody who want to come here to pursue graduate.
Well, thank you.